In 1992, he began teaching at Stetson. In 1999, he was a visiting associate professor at the University of Southern California, Los Angeles. In 1995 and 2007, he won Stetson's Hand Award for excellence in research. In 2002, he won Stetson University's McEniry Award for excellence in teaching. He taught courses on world religions, as well as courses on comparative spirituality and American religious history. He founded the Millennialism Studies Consultation of the American Academy of Religion to examine controversies that arise in millennial movements around the world. Dr. Lucas is also the founding editor of Nova Religio, a scholarly journal dedicated to the study of minority and new religious movements throughout history. He created the nonprofit corporation Association for the Academic Study of New Religions, which supports research in new and minority religions and the publication of Nova Religio. He has written 4 books. He has also published numerous articles on new and minority religions in edited books and peer-reviewed journals. In his later career, Dr. Lucas has created 3 documentaries on religious pilgrimage around the world. He also maintains a website on Neolithic studies. And if you look on the back of your order of service, there's a list of his books if anybody's interested. So I would like you to help me welcome Dr. Lucas to our podium.
All right. Well, it's great to be here again. I've always loved coming over here. I've probably been coming over to this particular group since you guys were over in I think it was the first like Congregationalist church over in New Smyrna Beach. Remember way back? So this would have been like in the 1990s, and then you were over at the Dudley Funeral Home, and you've been here now. How many? Yeah, that was an interesting place. How many years have you been in this location? Oh, only 6. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think I've shared with some of you that the Unitarian Universalist tradition actually is part of my family history. It turns out that my great-great-grandfather, Carol Lucas, started the first Unitarian Church of Menominee, Wisconsin. And like the 1880s, I think in the 1880s, he was one of those, what do they call it, town fathers, in Menominee, Wisconsin. He did a lot of things, but that was one of the things he did. Now, I was actually raised Roman Catholic because that part of the family got Catholicized at some point. And in those days, if you wanted to marry a Catholic, you had to agree to raise your kids Catholic. So I only found out about the Unitarian Universalist side a little bit later, and I certainly resonate much more with that because I'm sort of a universal person in the sense of I like to learn from and respect all traditions, and I don't have a sectarian bone in me, so Catholicism didn't last with me very long, except in the sense of Catholic meaning universal. Actually, Catholic means universal. With a small c, not necessarily with a capital C. Okay, so today's presentation is about something that most of you have probably heard of as Unitarian Universalists, and that's the concept of Maya. There's a lot of interpretations of this word, and it's used in different contexts in different schools of Hinduism. So I'm just going to focus in on 2 major schools of Hinduism and how they use the concept of Maya and why it makes a difference in your life. Which one of these you embrace? Okay, so that's what our theme is for today. Okay, so we'll start with the fundamental philosophical question that you may have asked, or maybe not in this way, but most people at some point ask, and that is simply, what is real? Is this world real? Are we real? Is the body real? Is God real? Right? What the hell is going on here? Right? Because sometimes it seems, depending upon, sort of our sense of our state of awareness, our emotions, our thoughts, we can have lots of different sort of experiences of the relative reality or unreality of daily life. Okay. So real can mean different things, and I'm going to sort of limit it to two different things as used in Hinduism. It can mean enduring, unchanging, and ever existing. So something that never changes, right? Or it can also mean real to our present experience of life, right? So our states of joy, pain, suffering. In this second sense, it does not mean unchanging, but it means something temporarily present and vivid in our experience. I think most Americans are very familiar with this, especially if you've done any encounter groups and therapy and all that. It's like, what's real to you right now? What are you feeling right now? And in the interaction with somebody, you have this sense of the vivacity of the person, right? So that's another way of thinking about real. And that of course is shifting. Anytime you talk about emotional states or mental states, it's always changing and shifting. Okay, so the two traditions that I'm going to be speaking about are Vedanta. Some of you have heard it. It's kind of the Hinduism based on the Upanishads, those scriptures in Hinduism, and also non-dual Shaivism, so the worship of Shiva as the supreme Lord, which is one of the main schools of spirituality in Hinduism. But students of either non-dual Vedanta or non-dual, and I should say something about non-dual. Basically, it's philosophical monism. It's the idea that there's only one reality, and we're all it. We're all living and breathing in that one reality. So there's not, it appears that there are a number of different phenomena, right? Independently existing objects in time and space. But in fact, it's all part of one substance, one awareness, one being. That's what non-dual means, okay? So these schools are both schools of non-dualism, that ultimately everything resolves into a unity. Now, students of both non-dual Vedanta and Shaivism are trained to develop viveka, or spiritual discernment. Like, this is really important in those traditions, discernment. Discernment about what? About what is real and what is unreal in a spiritual sense, right? What's real in the spiritual world? What is unreal? And figuring out and learning to see the difference between what is real and what is unreal is at the foundation of both of these traditions. So one key dimension of Viveka is this doctrine of Maya. In my thesis for today is simply that our understanding of Maya makes a big difference in how we approach daily life and how we experience the phenomenal world, okay? So our understanding of this is really key to our experience of daily life, at least in the Hindu context. Okay, in these great scriptures of Hinduism, the Upanishads, Maya is understood in two ways, historically speaking. First, as the cause of creation. So Maya causes the creation to appear. And this is related to this idea of Shakti, which we'll be talking about. Shakti is a kind of wondrous, awe-inspiring, creative power. It's a mysterious power that brings all of this into manifestation. And you can also understand Maya as an effect, or the creation itself. The creation is Maya. And there it has the meaning of appearance and illusion, like a magician's illusion. So right away, you get this idea in Maya that there's something about our experience of the phenomenal world that's not quite what it appears to be. There's an illusion as well as this incredible appearance of reality. So the thrust of the Upanishadic teaching is that through the mysterious power of Maya, right, the world of multiplicity appears. Because remember, everything's a unity, but it appears to be a diversity, right? To our senses, there's all these independently existing objects, and we certainly feel in our bodies and in our personalities separate from other things around us, right? That's sort of like the given, but this doctrine of Maya is saying that that sense of separateness is actually a kind of illusion. It's not real. Okay, and the problem, of course, is that when we get caught up in this world of multiplicity, it ensnares the jiva, or the individual soul, in the ocean of human suffering. So that's the fundamental problem in both of these schools of spirituality, is that we think we're separate, but we're really not. But as long as we feel separate, we undergo this ocean of suffering. What did I do? Oh, thank you. I'm so hard. Okay, so one of the great sages in the Advaita Vedanta tradition, non-dual Vedanta, his name was Gaudapada. He said that the human soul, or the Atman, experiences that the experiences it has in the waking and dream states are unreal, an illusion that is taken for reality. In other words, just most of us can kind of see in a dream, we wake up and we go, well, you know, that was kind of, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't real. It was kind of an illusion. But it's harder to see that as going on, right? That this itself is an illusion. But according to Gaudapada, it is. These illusory experiences emerge and subsist through the power of Maya. The same is true for the cosmos as a whole, right? Though it's experienced as real, it's an illusion. Because the true nature of the Atman is unity with divine reality. In other words, we are all part of that one spirit, one of that one being. That's our true identity, according to Vedanta. That being, that Atman, that divine reality, is free from these phenomenal conditions and duality. So even though we're having this experience of multiplicity and duality, it's not really affecting who we really are, our deepest identity, our deepest soul. Okay. Now, Gaudapada's student, Shankara, and some of you probably heard of him, he's written a number of commentaries on these Upanishads. He's considered to be the great teacher of Advaita Vedanta. He asserts that the Atman remains unaffected by the illusions of Maya, just as a magician is unaffected by his performance, right? So a magician does all of this stuff, but he retains the awareness that he's creating this illusion. He doesn't really get caught up in it. And he said that's when a person awakens in this reality to the nature of their own being, they can see it happening, but it's like almost like watching a movie, and they're not really caught up in it in the same way. The permanent self that witnesses the three states, and in Hinduism you have these three states of waking, dreaming, and then deep sleep, is not in any way affected by the phenomena of those states. So then you come to the question, well, how did this all appear in the first place? What's the point? If it's all just an illusion, what's the point of the whole thing? What's the point of going through all of these experiences of joy and suffering and terror and happiness? And, you know, it's like, if it's all an illusion, you know, who's having it over on us? So Shankara comes up with an answer, and I have to apologize to my wife. I'm going to be a little critical of Shankara here. And nobody in India will ever criticize Shankara, trust me. But I have to be just a little bit critical of Shankara. He says that through the mysterious power of Maya, names and forms is superimposed on the one cosmic self. He uses this word superimposition. Like, what does that really mean? It's almost like you have like a screen and then something gets projected onto it. It's that idea. He says those creations are neither Brahman, the one reality, the one absolute reality, but they're not different from it either. Because it's unity, right? So it can't be really different. Maya can't be really different from Brahman, from the one reality. For me, that's a seemingly contradictory position that does not directly address the nature of Maya. It just sort of like pushes it aside. It says, basically, Shankara says, you can't understand this. It's beyond human understanding, which is never very satisfying to a person like me. I know there are things like that. Okay, I'm not naive, but at the same time, it's sort of like shunting it aside. But I think it's a very important question. You know, what is the nature of this Maya? Okay, well, what are some of the possible real life consequences of this Vedantic conception of Maya? First, there may be a sense that the created world of phenomena is a trap, right? That, you know, similar to the Platonic idea of the body as the prison of the soul, kind of leaves us with this feeling that we're caught in this sort of nightmarish trap. Like, how do we get out of this thing? There's all this suffering going on, and there's something illusory about it, but I can't quite work that out. So this, in turn, I would maintain can lead to a kind of devaluation of the world of nature, right? The human body, human relationships, ordinary human experiences. It's like this thing that you want to get out of, as opposed to appreciating it for what it is. Okay, it can lead to that. I'm not saying it necessarily leads to that, but it can lead to that. If they're all illusions and snares that keep us trapped in this cycle of suffering, right, then the best course of action might be to withdraw from the world altogether, right? Treat the empirical world, the ordinary patterns of human life, with suspicion and detachment, the path of renunciation. And if you walk the streets of India, you see many people, they're called sadhus or sannyasins, who have renounced the world. And they spend their whole day in meditation, eating, and wandering the streets with no attachments, no possessions, and so forth. They have renounced the world because of this idea that it's a snare, that it's a trap for the soul. Now, a second possible consequence, and I'll speed through this a little bit, of Vedanta's conception of Maya is a kind of pessimism, right, regarding the entire human experience, right? A lack of appreciation for the miracle of phenomenal existence. I mean, even the Vedantins will admit that this is like this miraculous illusion. It's really amazing, right? The universe is an incredibly amazing thing, but beware, it's a trap, right? So that's one way of this. Those are two consequences of this idea of Maya in Advaita Vedanta, right? A kind of pessimism toward our lived experience, and this idea that we're sort of in this trap. We're caught in this trap, and we should just withdraw from the whole thing. You know, a lot of us feel that way these days, right, with our political situation. All of these terrible things going on in the world and in our country, and we feel powerless. It's like it's even stressful and anxiety producing to even like contemplate it. So the temptation is just to withdraw from it and do things that we enjoy, be with people that we enjoy, and just forget about all this other stuff because it's way over our heads. Okay, so the second school that has a different take on Maya is called Kashmir Shaivism. Sometimes it's called Tantric Shaivism or Shaiva Siddhanta, where Hemans people come from in South India. They call it Shaiva Siddhanta. It's a monistic vision of reality. So there's this idea of one supreme reality. But instead of Brahman as the supreme absolute, Kashmir Shaivism posits Shiva as the supreme being, the only reality. So Shiva is described as eternal being, so like pure being, infinite awareness, and supreme joy, perfect freedom. Okay, so that's their understanding of the nature of God. Now, Advaita Vedanta sort of accepts that as well, Sat Chit Ananda, right? Being, consciousness, and bliss. But Kashmir Shaivism adds two more attributes to the divine that I think are very, very important in this context. And that is that Shiva is also Spanda, this divine vibration or word. So it's like this incredible creative power that's emanating constantly through the creation. It's like the Om, like the one syllable, the one word that's constantly reverberating in our experience, in the backdrop, and that brings all things into being. So that's a very dynamic conception as opposed to something being at rest. And then also this idea of Icha, or the divine will or intention to create the phenomenal universe. So right away you're going, oh, there's an intention behind this creation. It's not just an appearance. It's not just an accident. It didn't just sort of appear mysteriously. There's an intention behind it. So the main differences between the two schools have to do with the status of the created world. What is this? What is this created world that we live within? In Kashmir Shaivism, the dynamic power of Shiva that creates the phenomenal world is his feminine polarity, or Shakti. So in Kashmir Shaivism, you have this idea that the divine reality has a masculine and a feminine polarity, and that it's actually the feminine polarity of Shiva that creates this whole manifest universe, the divine mother, in other words. She actualizes the latent powers of Shiva and emanates the many levels of spiritual and material reality. It's her creation. She's that side of the divine being that can actually create this phenomenal existence. So Maya in Kashmir Shaivism is the supreme power of Shakti to create the phenomenal world with its seeming dualities. Right? So it's an intentional creation. It's Maya. It's this incredibly powerful creation, but it's all done through the intention of the Divine Mother. So in that sense, the world of Maya in Kashmir Shaivism is not a dangerous trap or prison of the soul, something to be withdrawn from, right? Rather, it's the supremely free, divinely intended creative expression of Shiva Shakti, the divine pair. They have intended this to be. And we'll get into the question of why in just a second. In other words, the Supreme Absolute in Kashmir Shaivism intends to take on these contracted individual souls who seemingly have limited capacities. It intends that. It intends for us to have this limited human experience. It's not an accident. It's not a trap. It's like they intended this to be the case. And why does Shiva Shakti do this? Answer, according to Kashmir Shaivism, simply to express its creative joy, its creative power, to create and sustain a world in which limited versions of itself engage in an infinite range of human experiences as they struggle through times of contracted awareness and expanded awareness. When we're contracted, we feel separate. We feel, we're kind of in this dangerous situation, or at least unsatisfactory situation. When our consciousness, through the grace of Shiva Shakti, expands, we're at one with everything. We see the big picture. We have the divine perspective. And human life is like this breathing in and breathing out. Sometimes we're aware of the big picture. Sometimes we're in this very limited state. But the key in Kashmir Shaivism is that that's not a tragedy. It's the way the divine intended it, so that the divine can experience every different facet of the human experience, every possible iteration of a human life. The divine wants to experience that through each one of us, right? And because the absolute is, because Shiva in its nature is perfect freedom, there's nothing limiting what it can do. Right. So if you look around at the creation, nothing is exactly the same as everything else. I mean, it's particular human beings. My wife and I were talking about that on our way over in the car. It's like, you have a lot of religious people who want everybody to act the same way, follow the same rules, wear the same dress, have the same hat, all these different kind of markers of conformity. But if that's what the divine wanted, why didn't the divine just create a bunch of robots, right? With the same program operating through us. That's not what happened, right? There's just incredible diversity. Like every snowflake is different, right? And that's the intention of the divine one, to have as many possible experiences in our realm, of the human realm, as possible. Okay? So it's not an accident, our life here. It's not a mysterious superimposition in Brahman, but rather a field of divine play. The Hindu term is lila, that expresses the supreme freedom of Shiva. Shakti, the divine mother of creation, is not separate from the creation, okay? Her presence permeates the created order. So in other words, if you're in that expanded state, you are experiencing the divine emanation through you and around you and through other people and through the world of nature and phenomena all the time. The divine presence is always with us, right, in this way of seeing things. So, Kashmir Shaivism asserts that the phenomenal universe is real. It's not an illusion. It's real because it emanates from and embodies the will of the Divine One, while in no way compromising the absolute transcendence of Shiva. It's filled with divine presence, right? It's not an alien world devoid of divine presence. And I'm sorry to say that much of Western religion, incorrectly interpreted in my view, paints a picture of human beings living in this alienated world where the divine is not around us, and the divine is often Alpha Centauri somewhere. And maybe we can get the great cosmic spaceship when we die and get to go there and sit in the throne room or something. And that's an incredible inversion of reality, according to Kashmir Shaivism, because this is all a continuing emanation of the divine presence. Everything that we're experiencing, everything that we're seeing is imbued with the divine being all the time. There's no separation. This is her body. All of this is her body. There's a traditional Christian liturgical prayer that actually articulates this. Holy, 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 Lord God of hosts, heaven and earth are filled with your glory. Right? That's the vision of Kashmir Shaivism, right? That heaven and earth are filled with the glory of the divine presence. And that's what we are. We're just sort of like at the end point of that emanation in a way. And through our eyes and ears and perceptions, we are actually focalizing an experience of that reality for the one. So the divine is actually seeing through us, hearing through us, sensing through us in this vision. So what are the practical implications for the Kashmir Shaivite vision of reality and understanding of Maya? First, I would say it fosters a profound gratitude for the gift of life, right? While keeping one's eyes on the prize, in this case, self-realization, it allows for one to develop an awareness of the divine presence throughout the phenomenal order, throughout our daily lives, right? In the ordinary events of daily life, in the joys and challenges of human relationships, the natural world, the passage of time, and in all forms of human creative expression. We appreciate it as this incredible creative gift. In this tradition, the physical body itself is seen as a locus of divine creativity and of divinity itself, right? There's always this idea in some Western religions that the body is somehow impure, that the body is somehow a problem, right? But in Kashmir Shaivism, the body is actually where the divine manifestation comes through, particularly in human creativity. I know a lot of you here are artists and poets and writers and so forth. Why do you do that? Why are human beings always creating? It's because of that divine energy that's moving through us, according to Kashmir Shaivism. In other words, try not to be creative. Good luck. Good luck with that. Every one of us is a creator in some way. Okay. So with this understanding, there's a potential for less struggle, confusion, and a greater patience with the divine dance that unfolds within us each day. I mean, we never know really what's going to happen. We're just sort of riding the wave of all of these different events. But to be able to see it all as the unfolding of the divine intention, as opposed to some freakish nightmare, terror, horror story, I think makes a big difference in our daily appreciation and enjoyment of life. So the Kashmir Shaivite perspective on Maya also opens up avenues of enjoyment of the aesthetic dimension of human existence, whether it's a sunset, a sunrise, a poem, a human interaction, a joke, right? A family fight, the birth of a child, whatever. Each moment in the mysterious world of Maya can be appreciated as an awe-inspiring creative expression of the divine Shakti, in which we are both full participants and observers. Right? You ever get that sense that you're watching it all, but at the same time you're participating in it? There's like this kind of back and forth. So Maya in Kashmir Shaivism is no longer a problem, right? In the sense of a delusional world of false perceptions and continuous suffering from which we must escape. Rather, the world of Maya is a magical, mysterious experience of both spiritual and mundane adventures, the often bewildering masterpiece of the divine illusionist. Right, let's face it, it's bewildering a lot of the times. But if we can sort of just go with it, and sort of learn to appreciate it. I mean, which of us wants to watch a movie or a murder mystery where we know what the ending is right from the beginning? It sort of takes the fun out of it. It's the same with this. I think there's an intention behind us sort of like never really knowing exactly what the hell's going on. So especially in those moments of divine concealment, right? When we are fully identified with our human limitations and contingencies, the capacity to remember and feel the divine vibration or word, the spanda, right? Creating, preserving, dissolving in each moment can be a comforting way of coping with human suffering in times of spiritual darkness. If you can just remember that this is all part of the divine intention. It doesn't lessen the suffering, doesn't lessen the pain, but it allows us to see it in a different way. So to sum up, non-dual Vedanta, or Advaita Vedanta is the technical term, and Kashmir Shaivism are two spiritual systems that attempt to understand the nature of reality, and particularly the reality or unreality of the created world, the world of everyday lived experience. Their different understandings of the fundamental concept of Maya have repercussions for how to live a fully human and fully divine life in the ordinary world. Thank you.
Thank you so much.